My baby was born with a cleft palate, and I kept asking myself, why? Why my baby? And why does this have to happen to my family?
My daughter was born with cancer, and my son exhibits problems with attention deficit disorder and other kinds of chronic problems. My wife and I have really been bothered by the fact that this happened to our family, and why it happened to our family, we're not sure.
I hated myself, for what I'd put her through. I hated God, why I made.
All the parents, no matter where they come from, they have the same questions. Why did this happen to me? Why my child?
The Association of Birth Defect Children was founded in Orlando, Florida in 1982 by Betty McDesey.
When we started out, we were just 80 families, but today we're hearing from families from all over the country and from several other countries. In fact, right now we have 22 different countries on our mailing list. And no matter where they're from, no matter what their race or what their country of origin, they all have the same questions. Where can I meet some other families who have children with the same problems? What caused this? Does anybody have any answers? And that's why we're here, to try to help them with the questions and provide them with answers.
To match parents of children with similar birth defects, ABDC began a national birth defects registry.
I first heard about the Association for Birth Defects when Andrew was diagnosed with DeGeorge syndrome, which is a fairly rare syndrome that there aren't very many families, that no one we knew of that had it. Now we're going to be putting Andrew into the network and see if we can come up with some more families that will give us more support, perhaps locally, so that we can get to know other families and what they've been through and what we have to look forward to. And also I needed more information, more medical information about DeGeorge in a technical sense, so that I can be more informed as I go to the doctors and try and figure out what happens for him in his future.
I first found out I was going to have a baby with a birth defect when I was 4 months pregnant, and the doctor diagnosed it through the sonogram. And at first I was devastated when he told me I was going to have a baby with a cleft lip and palate. I didn't understand what exactly it was and why. And so I called ABDC, and they sent me a lot of information, got me hooked up with different doctors, a support group, so that when he was born, we would be prepared with everything.
Most of the families who fill out the birth defect registry questionnaire want to be linked with other families who have children with the same birth defect. I know that when our son David was born, that was the thing I wanted most, to meet another family who had a child with the same problem.
Betty and Mike McDesey's son David was born in 1975 with birth defects that they believe were caused by an anti-nausea medication called Bendectin. Betty had taken this drug during her pregnancy. The McDesey's case against the manufacturers of Bendectin attracted worldwide attention, including this documentary by the BBC. By the time Bendectin was taken off the market in 1983, ABDC was at the forefront in collecting data about the causes of birth defects. Today, staff and volunteers, including a now grown David McDesey, send the National Birth Defects Registry questionnaire to parents of children with birth defects. ABDC collects and collates information from the questionnaires about defects and prenatal exposures of mothers and fathers. And that's why the registry includes questions about exposures to pesticides, chemicals like dioxin, which have contaminated entire communities, exposure to radiation, chemicals released into the air and in waste landfills, exposure to chemical spills, chemical warfare overseas, and more commonly known toxins like tobacco, alcohol, and other drugs. Registry research has been presented to government and scientific meetings.
Ms. McDesey, these stories that we just saw are heartbreaking, but why are
as well as national media forums. Registry research has also helped families like Bernard Wyndham's. After his daughter was born with cancer, Wyndham had his well tested. He discovered the groundwater was contaminated with toxic chlorinated chemicals. Wyndham turned to ABDC for information about the effects of environmental toxins on children. His daughter's cancer and his younger son's chronic muscle and joint pains, headaches, and attention deficit disorder.
And I did hear about ABDC, who had information on other kids who had similar problems. And that was very helpful to find out that other kids who had similar exposures were having extremely similar problems to my kids.
As in the case of the Wyndhams, many causes of birth defects are just beginning to be identified and researched. That's why ABDC has assembled the National Environmental Birth Defects Registry Advisory Board. National experts in the fields of environmental biology, biochemistry, reproductive epidemiology, endocrinology, biometrics, and human development. They evaluate the registry questionnaire, database design, and results from data analysis. A major focus of the National Birth Defects Registry is collecting data on birth defects in children of Vietnam veterans. Like Stephen Isaacson, who since the age of 5 has been battling a rare form of lymphatic cancer. Like Kimberly Chisholm, who was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis when she was 9. Like Charlie Hopkins, who suffers chronic diarrhea, leg pains, and holes in his ears that will not heal. Charlie's father served in an area of Vietnam that was heavily sprayed with Agent Orange. So did Stephen's father and Kimberly's father. But Vietnam veterans are not the only soldiers concerned with birth defects linked to wartime exposures.
My service in the Gulf War could be why my son has birth defects.
Melanie Ayers is the wife of a Gulf War veteran. Her baby died when only 5 months old because of a severe congenital heart defect.
I pray that it doesn't take 20 years, and I pray that it doesn't take hundreds and hundreds of dead children before somebody realizes that this is just not acceptable.
Okay.
ABDC has added a special section to its birth defect registry questionnaire to collect information about Gulf War exposures and birth defects. As with all birth defects, ABDC believes that prevention is the only cure.
We have reports that have indicated that birth defects have doubled in the last 25 years. We have made some connections, but we really feel our work has just begun. We want to keep looking for potential environmental causes of birth defects so we can help parents answer their question, why my child?